deleting that. So for your mood boards, I'm going to get to those chat questions in a brief moment. You've got your title page. Here's just a mood board breakdown. So this is not exactly what it has to be. I'm not saying you need to illustrate it this way, you need to fill your box in this way, but this is just, for example, if you're doing a portrait. So maybe you have, you found some sort of textures that you want to integrate. So instead of it being, you know, smooth shading with gradients and such, maybe you have, it's like a little more rough, has a little bit of rough texture to it. So throw some texture stuff in there. Depending on what your element is, maybe it's a lifestyle, something or other, and then throw that in there. Some color, your feature image, maybe your feature object. Again, so really building upon this. This is just to help you kind of get the wheels turning of what you could potentially include in here. Here's mine. So here I really love the, and this is what, there's obviously no rationale in here, but I would explain, this is for color because I really like that it's completely, you know, unrealistic. It's a blue face with bright red hair. I really like the greenery in these elements. So I would be incorporating greenery into my portrait, which is why this is here and this is here. This would be my proposed color palette. And these two are more here for inspiration or to show how I plan on doing the shading of my portrait. So stronger shadows versus gradient shadows. This is also a good example with some texture. And I do have my photo on here. So I get it. You guys don't, not a lot of people like just throw their photo out there. I was really uncomfortable and I never wanted to. And then I was like, if I'm asking you folks to, I probably should as well. So this is my photo that I illustrate. So that's got to be on there. Okay. So sorry, I'm going to get into that chat. And actually, maybe I should just look at the chat now. Let's see, Maggie. So what I'm getting from the sample of the mood board you provided, we have to make a specific theme for our portrait. Wear a flannel shirt for my portrait photo, but would I be able to change that into a regular shirt? Yes, you can do that. That's no problem. So when I said you can't, don't wear patterns, you don't want to illustrate them. If that happens, like in Maggie's instance, she's saying that she wore a flannel shirt for her photo, 100% you can change that, Maggie. Obviously something that's still realistic, unless you're going, it's very hard to say because I say it must be realistic, but then if kind of going really out there in your style is where you're going with your design style and your illustration style, then you should do that. But again, I cannot emphasize enough that everything should be cohesive. We have to make a specific, what do you mean, Maggie, from a specific theme? Maggie?
Oh, I just read in the instructions. You talked about like maybe your like favorite hobby or like if you're into horoscope or anything like that. So I guess it would have to suit a specific type of thing.
Yes. So, but saying that, that could essentially be, like I said, it could be integrated into your actual portrait. Maybe you like fantasy style things. So maybe like Lord of the Rings. I'm so bad with this stuff. I'm like super lame. I don't know much about it. Like if it's like Lord of the Rings or some sort of like gaming thing where there's like a, I'm just going to take Adam. Say you really like Super Mario. Is that even a Mario guy? Maybe. So you'd have, maybe it's essentially like Mario guys all around you, something like that. Or maybe there's like Super Mario guys on your shirt. If you really like fantasy stuff, maybe you're wearing like a really kind of gothic looking crown, and then the background is going to have some sort of look and feel like that. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. No problem. Sorry, I'm just getting
Kristen,
my daughter picked. Yeah, who's that?
I have another question just about like the kind of theme stuff that we're talking about. Let's
Yes,
say you
Amy.
did do something like, let's say it was like Marvel or something. Would we still be allowed to do that even though it's technically copyright? Would that matter?
Yes, as long as you still make it your own. So like if you want to put like a Batman like mask,
Yeah,
I don't want you to put a mask on your face. That might be something that I can answer more on an individual process.
Okay.
So, you know, maybe either after this class, if there's something you're thinking specifically, or maybe offline through an email or through Discord chat, might be better to answer that on a one-off.
Okay.
But essentially, yes, good question. You can still do that because to be honest, from my knowledge, what I'm saying is that you can use that stuff because it's for educational purposes. So
Okay. No, I was just wondering because I was thinking for like themes, I might do something based on some of my favorite movies, like characters and stuff, but I wanted to make sure it was okay because I didn't want it to be like you know what I mean?
an infringement. Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
if you're thinking kind of like your favorite, say Marvel-like characters, maybe,
Mhm.
I mean, obviously save yourself the time, don't illustrate all of them, but maybe it's, again, I'm so bad with this stuff. I feel like a million years old and I'm trying to refer to it. You know, like there's like Spider-Man webs in a corner and I don't know what else, who else is but anything like that, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
I'm sorry. Oh, I somewhat answered that for you. Okay, so good questions, folks. So for postcards, if you guys can just give me one quick moment, I'm just going to run through this. I'm just going to pause my pause. Sorry, folks. I have a sitter picking up my daughter, and I just need to make sure she wasn't into trouble. Okay, so I will do a walkthrough of this, but in case anybody's quite confused by the postcard. So again, we have our large portrait on the large paper. And then we have our postcard setup. So we do have 18 by 12. And then we will have a bleed. So I can't again stress enough, it has to be set up with these exact dimensions, or when we get these printed, which I'm hoping we do. It's always a bit of a toss up since COVID with printing. Things will not get trimmed properly. So it is 4 by 5, not 4 by 6. So I thought, and this is where, so they're all going to be set up here, and there's going to be 2 pages. So your picture is going to be on page 1. Your illustrated picture will be on page 1, and page 2 will have your typographical element. Okay, that's that. Running through a couple samples. Whoops, here. So this is Anna Maria's. So Anna Maria was already a very strong illustrator. She already was commissioned to do illustration before. So she had pretty much this all nailed down ahead of time for her style and such. So playing up with this background, obviously I'm not going to just go into her rationale of where that background came from, but that's where her element is. It's this background. So again, it doesn't have to specifically be Marvel. It could be a place that's in the background, something like that. And then for her postcard, again, these are 2 pages, but I just included the one just to save for file sizes. So page 1 was 8 of her portraits, and page 2, she integrated her portrait with the typographic element. Okay, so I included that not only because it was a beautiful portrait, but also to show you those 2. That other version. I think it's this one. These are huge files. Should have shrank them down a little bit more. This is Bronte from last year. So here she had an astrology. So she just had her image as is, and then she had her astronomy sign in the background with a very simplistic background again, but it all kind of came in together. And on the back, she pulled in, it's tough to see some of her background here. And then she just had her typography, her name simply here. Like I said in the previous one, Anna Maria had passion, and it was integrated in with her photo. For here, this is Mason. So here's his photo or his portrait. Years ago, you had to have the typography in with the portrait, I believe, and people found that difficult. So I took that out. In Mason's case, he wanted to include the typography in with his actual portrait versus just on the postcard sample. So this was a good example, obviously, as well, and it was fantastically executed. So this is also a good example of, it doesn't just have to be a flat on photo. He really stepped, lack of better terms, outside of the box, and broke that face apart. He had a great rationale behind it. If you know Mason, he's incredibly intelligent. So this is where his portrait landed. Whoops. And for his second page, he updated the colors just to add a little bit of differentiation from the first page. So he had obviously 8 of these set up and then 8 of these set up. Whoops. And I'll just run through one more. Another beautiful example. This is Sarah's. So a fabulous execution. So a little more of a cartoon illustration versus the others were a little more, say, of a realistic approach, but still recognizable for her. There's her, you know, subtle element that she included in there, which was the bee. And then again, between the bee and the background and her portrait, everything still came together in a very beautiful, cohesive way. And on the back of hers, again, for her, she did not integrate her portrait. It was just the typography, but again, pulling in the background elements with the bee and the glowing yellow circle to tie everything in together. These are, we will start running through these as well, or I might just kind of play these with you folks in class while you guys can, and then ask questions, but I always like to do these live with you, or at least run through these live with you. So this way, if there is any questions that tend to billow up, we can answer them then. But here's just how to begin your portrait, what you can do to your photo to kind of help get the ball rolling. Eyes are a huge part for me with these photos. Those eyes can really make things realistic, especially I find, as funny as it sounds, I find if you struggle a little bit more with illustration and how to really get this thing to come to life, if you just take a little more time on the eyes, it can really add some realism to it. Saying that, some people, like say in that last example I showed you, in Sarah's example, not quite like a full-on realistic approach, but she already had a very strong illustrative skill to be able to make the whole piece look beautiful. So it's kind of a toss between those two. So a few tutorials on how to create the eyes. And then this is how we set up our postcard. Again, we'll run through those later. Whew, I feel like I've done a whole lot of talking today. Are there any questions?
For the background, we're using Illustrator for the background. So
For everything.
For everything. So is there like a way to do like an airbrush effect, or is that just with gradient?
Well, I'm sure there's brushes actually that you can create an airbrush effect.
Okay, because I'm used to doing it in Photoshop, so I'm not too familiar with the Illustrator side of it.
So that one's a big no. So no Photoshop. Okay. So, but there's definitely, let me just airbrush Illustrator brushes. Yeah, there's Illustrator brushes that you can download if not already in there, to be able to give that sort of look and feel, but absolutely all of that must be achieved through Illustrator.
Thank
I
you.
know you guys want to kill me for that, but it's to so we can get more comfortable in Illustrator. That's the intention of this class. Any other?